The first tutorial for creating a laser cut file in Adobe Illustrator for Year 10 Hardtech. Now, after you've created your cardboard mock-up, we'll then have the dimensions to take through to use Adobe Illustrator, which we'll be learning in this tutorial. After that, take that through to create a laser cut file, and that laser cut file will then be used to create your holder. And once we've finished that, we'll put the base on it and the project will be completed. So this tutorial is all about learning how to use Adobe Illustrator to create a file for the laser cutter. We'll be using Adobe Illustrator for this, and now on a PC it'll look slightly different, and there may be a couple of little things that are different, but basically it's the same on the Apple and the PC. So we'll open up Adobe Illustrator. First one to go is File, New, and we want to make sure that it is RGB, because we're really going to be using the red and the blue colors, and those are what the laser cutter picks up. So basic RGB, and we're going to do it at A3, and then landscape, because that's the basic size of the laser cutter. So the basic size is an A3 size, and we want to call it phone holder, and put your name there so we don't lose that. And then we have the document ready to go. Okay, once you've got it open, there are a few things we'll look at first. First, we'll look at how to do basic shapes, and really you'll be using the pen tool, which sits up here, and the shape tool, which sits here. So first of all, the pen tool, you can draw basic shapes like that, and when you come to the end, there's a little circle that shows up next to your pen, and that shows that it's just complete. The other thing you might want to use is the basic shapes tool. And like in Microsoft, if you hold the shift key while you're doing that, that'll keep that in proportion, or if you just draw it, you can make any shape you like. If you want to move things around, you can use the arrow up here and move things about. Okay, so the next thing you might want to do is trace an object. So if you want to trace an object, the best thing to do is go on the internet, find an image of the object you want to trace, and just leave that on your desktop as you'd normally do. Once you have that on the desktop, come back into Adobe Illustrator and go into File, Place, and that should bring up your desktop. Place that there. Then you've got something to trace, and it doesn't have to be high quality because you're only going to use it as a guide, and then you can go through with your pen tool and slowly trace that object. Now what you'll see here is this is starting to fill up with black, and it's going to get a bit tricky when we get around to the side. Now that has to do with the way it's filling it up here. So if you go down to this area here and click on the no fill, and we could make that a nice pink color so we can see what we're doing here. And then when you trace around, you can trace that. Now this might take a few goes to do, however, once you get the swing of it, it's a lot easier. And you can just continue around the hand doing that. Once you've traced around the hand or the shape, could be the rugby ball, could be silver fern, could be a World Rugby Cup, whatever you want to do, you can just delete that background and you're left with your shape here. Now I've just done this one as an example, and you can put it over here. You can treat this as a workbench. You can drop things onto the side here. The only thing that's going to print out is this screen, this A3 page here, so you can try things and drop them around. Now the important thing is to get your phone holder or whatever you're making the right size. And if we go over to here in the rectangle tool, if you go onto your page, and if you double click on your mouse, it'll give you the ability to set dimensions. So if I go width 100, and if I go height 200, it's going to give me a shape which is those dimensions. Okay, so just to go through that again, if I double click and I want a width of 50 and height of 150, it will give me a shape there. So that's the best thing to start with once you've got your dimensions all sorted out, is to do that exact shape, and then when you bring your objects in that you're going to trace around, you can then hold shift, of course, to scale things up and down, and you start to have those bits and pieces ready. You can rotate objects if you hover around the side as well, if you need to do things like that. Okay, so what I've done here is I've slowly gone through and using my mock-up for dimensions and trying a few different things and tweaking and changing, I've got to a point where I've drawn up my piece here. So just to give you an overview, we've got the hand here, and if I click on this, it'll say up here 0.001, and the color down here is a red line, and there's no fill because we don't want any fill color in there. So I'm pretty happy with that. And the next part to talk about, so this is the red. So the red, remember we're working RGB, and the RGB sits up here. So the red and the blue are what we're really after. And the laser cutter knows that if it's the red, an RGB red, and the line weight is 0.001, it will cut. And now the blue, if I click on that, it comes up with the blue here, and remember it's still RGB, and if it's blue, 0.001, it will score it. So if you're trying to do a fold or anything, or you just want a line which you want to use the hot metal cutter on, that will be to do a score. Okay, now the next one I want to show you is if you want to put an etching into your file. So you've got your lines all ready to go and you're pretty happy with that, but you want to put an image to etch. Now the laser cutter picks up black as the etching tool. So what we're going to do is I'm going to bring in a silver fern. I've already saved it to my desktop, and we're going to bring it in. So if we bring this in, and I'm going to place, okay, go to my desktop here, and I'm going to place this. And what you see is sometimes it's huge, so to scale that down, I'm just going to hold my shift key on here, and I'm going to scale that down to here. And I'm going to drop it on to my piece, and that's going to etch in as that there. Now, if I go edit, copy, edit, paste. Now the reason I've done that is because if you place a file, it's just linked. There's just a link. It just every time it opens, it says, when you open this, please link it in here. If I paste it in, like in Microsoft Word and PowerPoint and all those things, it's actually now in here. That's the reason I copied and pasted it once I was in here. So if I close this, take it to another computer on a USB, this silver fern is going to be here. If I did that with just by placing, it would have not had the silver fern file with it. So, and the fact this is black, it's all ready to go now for the laser cutter. So I am all ready to set up. The files are ready to go. I'm going to just move this off here so it doesn't get cut in the laser cutter, and I'm just going to sit this in the top corner, and that's all ready to go. So all happy, file, save, and I'm going to just save it to my desktop for now, save, and this will pop up, just OK that, and we're ready to go and take it across to the laser cutter to cut.